So today on Sports File, this is a belated happy birthday podcast to one of the most interesting people I've had the gracious pleasure to have interviewed. William Francis Lee III, known to his many millions of fans across the world as Bill Lee, one of the most classic pitchers of all time, a great starter and reliever for the Boston Red Sox, the Montreal Expos. But for those who don't know who Bill Lee is, let me put you up to date. Bill Lee was probably the most cerebral player in Major League Baseball history in the 70s and 80s. To call him a hippie or a counterculture guy would be kind of a misnomer. He was a multifaceted individual who would speak his mind, very humorous, very self-deprecating, various theories about baseball. And he's also a well-known author and broadcaster. Lee's 4 books, including The Wrong Stuff, Have Gun, Will Travel, The Little Red Sox Book, A Revisionist Red Sox History, and Baseball Eccentrics, the most entertaining, outrageous, and vertical characters in the game. He is probably the link between the old-fashioned 1960 style of baseball to the modern era. Now, born in beautiful downtown Burbank, California, he was born to a family of pro baseball players. His grandfather, Bill Lee, was an infielder for the infamous Hollywood Stars of the PCL, and his aunt was actually a pitcher in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, a league of their own. Obviously, covered that. That's a very great movie. And Lee once said, Annabelle was the best athlete of the family, and she taught me how to pitch. Now, as a player at Terra Linda High School in San Rafael, California, he graduated in '64, but he went to USC right after, and he was part of a great Trojan team that made the '68 College World Series. He was drafted by the Boston Red Sox in the 1968 Major League Draft, and he basically solidified the Red Sox that needed a great young starting pitcher. He in his first 4 years of his career, they tried him in a few starts, but he's mostly a relief pitcher, appearing in 125 games with a 1911 record. But in '73 was a big year for the reborn Red Sox. He became a starting pitcher in 1973, and over a 3-year period, he won 51 games, 3 straight 17-win seasons. Now, his big claim to fame, of course, it was in the 1975 World Series, where he pitched for the Red Sox in a crucial Game 2 and Game 7. But unfortunately, he gave up a massive eephus pitch home run in Game 7, which eventually led to Boston losing. Now, the big problem with Lee in his future career actually was an on-field injury. He got in a brawl in the 1976 season, the game against the Yankees. There was a brawl involving Lou Piniella and Carlton Fisk of the Red Sox at the plate, and it led to a major incident that would cause Lee a torn ligament, pitching shoulder, and it kind of derailed his career. Now, the big problem with Bill Lee, of course, and nobody could tell him what to do. The Red Sox, he got into a public feud with manager Don Zimmer on a regular basis. Mainly because Zimmer didn't know anything about running the pitching staff. Lee had mentioned that several times. And the trade of Fergie Jenkins and Bertie Carbo also played in, because they were kind of, uncontrollable players at the time, their own mind, as we say. After Carbo was fired, Lee threatened to retire, and because of it, he came up with the infamous nickname for Don Zimmer, the Gerbil. And the Gerbil basically said, this is the last straw, and he eventually, did not play for the Red Sox the rest of the season. And '78, of course, he lost to the eventual World Series champions in that infamous one-game playoff. Now, Lee was traded in the 1978 season to the Expos, where he rejigged his career for the infamous Stan Pappy, one of the worst players in the history of the Expos. And he bade farewell to Boston, that famous expression, He said, who wants to be with a team will go down in history alongside the 54 Phillies and the 67 Arabs. Big losers, as we say. Now, his first season with the Expos, Lee had a great year, 16 games. He was named the Sporting News Left-Hander of the Year. But he got into problems again. Lee, as a Rastafarian, is a former Catholic as well, former Catholic Rastafarian, the best type of Rastafarians, if you ask me. And he was a big proponent of marijuana. And he caused heavy controversy in 1980 season when he admitted to token up. And it landed him not only cover a High Times magazine, but he was also called in the office of that white bread Commissioner Bowie Kuhn. And then Lee claimed, I didn't use the drug, the smoke, I put it on my pancakes. By the 1981 playoff, he was just basically back in relief corps, and his career ended in 1982 when he was eventually released by the Expos after he staged a walkout when his friend Rodney Cool Breeze Scott was released. Lee has always said to the media, he's been very open to media. When I interviewed him, he was very honest about his feelings about the topics we covered. And, he basically believes that he's been blackballed all his life for who he is, like a person that's always been looking at the bigger side of sports and the bigger side of humanity. Now, Bill Lee's nickname, Spaceman, may be kind of a misnomer. I don't believe he really enjoys the moniker. If I was going to call him anything, I would call him Bill the Brains Lee. But he's spoken on many topics of his concern: defense of Maoist Russia, population control, support of Greenpeace. He's one of the biggest supporters of the Green movement of the 1970s into the current day. But after his Major League Baseball career, he was a roving kind of semi-professional player. He had played every place: Moncton, Florida, Venezuela, all different types of places. And he has a great connection to Canada, of course, because his wife is Canadian. And and one of his best moves, I think, of his career, he announced plans in 1987 he was going to run for president for the Rhino Party, or the U.S. version. And of course he didn't win, but can you imagine how better the United States would be with Bill Lee as president? Not like little Stalin, Donald Trump there. So anyway, as it currently stands now, he keeps quite busy on the independent circuit, playing ball. He actually his life was made into a biograph pick in 2016 called Spaceman, starring Josh Duhamel. I had a chance to watch it. All I can say, it doesn't live up to his reputation of the league. But he like to say, he's very good known for his controversial one-liners. The stories he talked about, the voodoo princess who was behind the plate in Game 6 against Boston when the Mets won that famous game. He once said on a political career, he said, I don't believe in guns or butter because both can kill you. Now, he's mostly based in Craftsbury, Vermont right now. Was approached to run for governor of the state in 2016, and he lost the election, but he received over 8,900 votes. So he's all over the place. I mean, he's a great gentleman. If you ever had a chance to meet him, you're going to see right away is what you see is what you get. He'll talk about anything. He's not scared to give his opinions. He's friendly with children. He's friendly with all types of people. When he was in Moncton, he said he loved New Brunswick. He was always saying that it was a hidden gem. He credited the baseball programs in Moncton throughout the province as developing players like Jason Dixon and Matt Stairs and Real Cormier and great players like that. He's a gentleman in all facets. My only thing, I think he could have been one of the best pitchers in Montreal history and Boston history, but injuries and problems. Some players are only good for about 5 to 10 years, and Bill falls in that category. Now, there was a movement a few years ago to try to get him in the Hall of Fame. I don't think Bill would accept induction in the Hall of Fame, because his Hall of Fame is the people that have followed him, that respect him. He loves the fans. I've never seen him turn down a request for an autograph. He's always there for the people he cares about, and he's himself. He's Bill Lee. Like I said, Bill the Brains Lee. Spaceman, okay, but He's not a spaceman, because spaceman refers to somebody that's, flighty and doesn't know what's going on. Bill Lee is so intelligent, you cannot keep up with half the things he'll say in a 5-minute interview. If he had his own podcast on a regular basis, you couldn't comprehend the topics he would cover. And you know something? Bill Lee should be involved in Canadian baseball in some shape or form, either Team Canada or the Blue Jays. He should reach out. He'd be a good consultant, because his eephus pitch, and he had a very nasty 79 mile an hour ball that would pass, just like falling off a table. He was just a pleasure to watch, a pleasure to cover. So again, on this cold January day, just remember, if you see Bill Lee in Vermont or someplace in the States or any place, just go up and say hi and tell them Canada loves you, because we love you, Bill Lee. Have a good day, and don't forget, don't keep your stick in the ice, but always keep your rosin bag dry. You never know when the next Dalhousie Dodgers reunion game will be. Maybe against the Belgian Mooseheads, we don't know. Have a good one. Bye.